So welcome to the third of our symposia. This is, we have one more left and then the wrap up. We have also reading 24 that's left to do. Like we talked about before we started recording, I'm going to open this specific lesson up, if it turns out as well as I hope it turns out, to to the greater YouTube experience, and hopefully people will be able to, you know, garner some information and learn some things from it. We're going to be focusing on syllabification, how to break up words into their syllables, and the vowel change rules, especially for nouns. We're going to mention the change rules for verbs, but we're not going to look at any examples. We've talked about them a little bit throughout the course, where I mentioned verbs that have vocalic suffixes, like the feminine third person, where it says she does or she did, and it's a. And also the third person plural u. Those vocalic endings, for whatever reason, underwent secondary shift, where like shamar was shamara, she kept, and the accent shifted to the end of the word historically, and it became shamara, shamra, and shamru instead of shamaru. And that happened basically in all of the binyanim except for the hifil. But we've talked about that a few times throughout the course, so it's not something that I'm going to bring up. But we're going to focus really on nouns, and especially segolate nouns, because it's my favorite thing in the world. So, okay, so first up, syllabification. Vowels can be, if we think of vowel length, vowels can be a couple of things. They can be
short or long.
Yeah, long or short. Technically in Hebrew, you can have long, short, and half or reduced. Okay. Syllables can be either in terms of tone or accent. Syllables can either be
accented or unaccented.
Accented or unaccented, exactly. And in terms of their ending, the end of a syllable,
Open or closed.
Either be open or closed. Open meaning that it ends in a vowel, and closed meaning that it ends in a consonant. Clear? No problem. What does that mean? All right, a little bit about definitions. How do we know if a vowel is long or short? I put TBC, to be continued, because we're going to look at it in a few minutes.
Short.
If a vowel is long or short. There are two things.
An open accented syllable is going to be long.
Let's take accented out. We only deal with unaccented syllables.
Oh.
In unaccented syllables, if it's open, the vowel will be long. And if it's closed, the vowel will be short. We don't really have a fast rule for accented syllables, but generally accented syllables like to be long.
Right.
But there's no rule that says that they have to be. Right? What is an open versus a closed syllable? We just mentioned it.
Yeah.
Open
Close
syllables end in a vowel.
With, whoops.
Michael, I think it was the opposite.
Answering the two ends of the thing. Yeah. A closed syllable ends in a consonant.
Yeah, that's right. A closed syllable ends in a consonant, which means an open syllable ends in a vowel. Great. That doesn't always have to be the case, because you do have echo vowels. So we mentioned before with the verb yishtachave, that the cha is actually an echo vowel of the patach. Yishtachave, the cha is not really, it would technically be the closing of the syllable before it. Like Yaakov, the name Yaakov, is technically a closed syllable, ya'a, and then kov. It's technically a closed syllable. That echo vowel doesn't count as its own. Doesn't matter. So where does Hebrew generally place the stress on a word?
Final syllable.
Final syllable, we say on the ultima, right? That's almost, Hebrew words are almost always ultimate. They receive stress on the ultimate syllable. What we call this in Hebrew terms is milra. Milra. I'll write that. Milra. ra. This is the technical word for a word that's accented on the last syllable, milra. If it's not accented on the last syllable, according to traditional grammar, it would be accented on the syllable before, and it's called mil-el. There's mil-el and mil-ra. For the most part, we have a set of words that are accented mil-el. And what is that most common exception for the rule?
Segolate nouns.
Segolets, yes, and it can also be verbs like the participle is generally a segolate construction, like the feminine singular, like shomeret, shomeret yoledet. All of that was originally shomart and yoladet, but it became it's just segolate like every other segolate. What possible syllable combinations are there? If we think in terms of syllables can be long or short or reduced, they can be open or closed, they can be stressed or unstressed, accented, unaccented. All together, if you put all that together, basically you end up with 27 possible combinations. That sounds absurd, sounds ridiculous, right? You could have syllables that are open, accented short, closed, unaccented long. You can imagine all of the possibilities, but we're not going to go through all of them because they don't really matter. We can simplify this to a single rule that is correct about 95% of the time. That's a guess at the statistic. I don't know what the statistic is, but it's most of the time. And that rule is in unaccented syllables. Open syllable has a long vowel and a closed syllable has a short vowel. Just remember, open long, closed short. That's our rule of thumb. And it's what Webb mentioned earlier. So this is it spelled out. An unaccented syllable, that is our only thing, unaccented syllable. What does that mean? Accented syllable, we don't have a rule. Okay, an accented syllable could be short, but most of the time it will be long. So it may have either a long or short vowel if it's accented. But in an unaccented syllable, if the syllable is open, the vowel will be long, and if the syllable is closed, the vowel will be short. In unaccented syllables, open, long, closed, short. Okay, that's the rule that you need to remember. Open, long, closed, short. Right? I learned that from Weingreen years ago. He actually spelled that out. Open, long, closed, short, and that stuck with me forever. So what are long vowels and short vowels? There are long and short vowels in Hebrew. Obviously, there are also reduced. I didn't put the reduced versions on here because you should basically know them. So compare the following. These are the class A, E, I, O, U. There are actually 3 classes. You may be familiar with the fact that E and I are the same vowel class, and O and U are the same vowel class. We just say that this is the A class, I class, and U class. Why do we say that? Because historically, and we know this from Arabic, there were only 3 vowels. That's the historic argument. That A became a long A and became a short A. The I vowel in some situations became E, and in other situations became E. The U vowel sometimes became O and sometimes U. So there was a breakdown of the vowel system. It became more precise as the language went on, but early on it was A, E, O, or I, E, U, excuse me, that was it. These 3 vowels, A, E, and U, were also representative of the case system. Okay, where the U was the nominative case, E was the genitive or dative case, and A was the accusative case. Early on, nouns in Hebrew, like in classical Arabic, had case endings. Okay, we see these things remaining in some forms in the Bible, but for the most part, the case endings are gone. Okay, so if we look at what we have this one, which is called kamatz. Kamatz is a long A. It's considered long, even though it sounds the same as a short one. When we talk about long and short, we're not talking about sound. Like in English, long A says A, and short A says A. Long E says E, and short E says eh. That's what they teach us in phonetics in school, right? Well, in Hebrew, we don't have a distinction in sound, only in basically syllable structure, because we don't hold them out at different lengths. We don't pronounce them any differently. It's just for remarking in our brain, is that syllable long or short? Okay. The tsere is long, whereas segol is short. Okay. With chirik, the same symbol is used for long and short syllables, as is kubutz. Kubutz. The same symbol, dots are used for long or short. How do we know then if it's long or short? If the syllable is unaccented and it's closed, then it's short. But if it's open, then it's long. Okay, and if it's accented, you just have to know by the pattern. Cholam is long, and kamat katan is katan, small, short. Okay. Of course, we have the reduced vowels chataf patach, chataf segol, and chataf kamat. Okay, all of those are called reduced, as is shva. Any of the shva is reduced if it's simple or if it's composite. You know, composite shva is made up of shva with one of the short vowels.
Can I ask a question? Is hatif kamatz always an O sound?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The open, long, closed, short rule applies to unaccented syllables, as we've said. It explains how we know that kamatz is to be read as O in some syllables. How do we know this? Like the word kol. You know, kol, when it's not joined to the next word, is written with cholam because it has an accent. It's by itself. But when it's joined to the next word with makaf, makaf is this joiner, and then you'll have a word over here. It will have kamatz katan, and that is a closed syllable with the accent over here. Closed unaccented syllable is O. That's how we know that it's kol. Right? All right, moving on. This is our rule. Okay, open, long, close, short. We're gonna repeat it a million times so it sticks in your head. Open, long, close, short, and it's unaccented syllables. All right, this is Genesis chapter 1, verse 9. Bereshit, perek aleph, pasuk tet. Did somebody want to read that for us? Somebody feels like jumpy. You've read maybe Genesis 1 and you feel pretty good about it.
I think
Michael, yeah.
Vayomer Elohim yikavu hamayim mitachat hashamayim el makom echad v'tera'e hayabasha vayahi chen.
Beautiful. Good job. After all the reading we've done in this course, it's just the people who are watching on YouTube don't know how much you guys have read already. So, Vayomer Elohim yikavu hamayim mitachat hashamayim. Okay, so let them be gathered together, the waters, under the heavens unto one place, el makom echad. And let be seen, this is nifal, let be seen or let appear the dry land, hayabasha, yavesh, dry, hayabasha, vayichen, and it happened. It happened thus, and it was like that. Okay, great. We want to pull out a few phrases from this verse, or a few words, a few phrases, and break them down into syllables. Simple. You learned this in first year Hebrew, but we just want to think a little bit about syllables. So the first one is el makom. Okay, el makom. If we transcribe it, it's going to look like this: el Okay, the aleph is, we're going to do this on Thursday. We're going to go over transcription. But aleph is written like this: Segol, Lamed, Makaf, Mem, Kamat, Kof, Cholam Vav, and Mem Sofit. Okay, so that's transcription. That's what we're going to go over on Thursday. I don't expect you to know it right now, of course. I mean, if you do, you do. That's wonderful. When we break it into syllables, of course, the makaf represents the joining of two words, and a syllable is broken before makaf, right? So that is a closed syllable right there. The next syllable would be ma. This is open, right? How do I know it's open?
Long unaccented syllable. Long vowel
Great.
unaccented.
Okay. If I wanted to break the word right there, can I do that? And then I can say that's a closed syllable?
No.
No. Why not? What is the rule that tells me I can't break the word there?
Syllables don't start with vowels, even though that's
Syllables don't begin with
a
vowels.
vav.
Yes.
The vav is just part of the vowel. The what do you call that? Holem vav. So that's
Yeah.
not a consonant to start a syllable.
Exactly. This is a vowel letter. Cholam vav. It's O. It's not a consonant, so it cannot open a syllable, which means the syllable has to be opened with the kuf. Right? Every syllable in Hebrew must be opened with a consonant, with one exception. The word u at the beginning of a word, whenever it is the conjunction, uvechol nafshecha, right? Uvechol, that u is the only exception to opening a syllable with a vowel. Okay? Apart from that, you can't do it. So if you want to break it here and you say, that looks fancy, no, you can't. You have to break it here. So we have here 3 syllables, el, ma, kom. If we broke the transcription into pieces, we'd have el, ma, kom. Okay, that's the transcription. So the first syllable, if we number them, well, number 1 is closed, right? It ends in lamed. Is it unaccented or accented? We know that el makom, the accent is here. So syllable 1 is closed and unaccented. That demands a short vowel, right? Syllable number 2 is open and unaccented. That demands a long vowel, kamat. And syllable 3 is open or closed?
Closed.
Closed, accented, unaccented,
Accented.
which tells us
Short.
nothing. There's no
nothing
rule.
because it's accented. Ah,
No rule for accented syllables. You should guess that normally it will be long, but there is no rule. You can't determine anything by it. Okay, so look at another one.
How about Holem vav? Is Holem vav always long?
Always long, yes.
All right, so that's what tells us.
All matres lectiones.
Yes.
Matres lectiones. All of them are long. They are not only long, they are historically long. You have historic long and lengthened long. Like you have a lengthened short. We'll look at this in a few minutes. But historic long or historically long vowels are the ones with matres lectiones. And sometimes you have a kamat that was historically long, but we'll look at it in a minute. Well, I don't know if we'll get into that. It's not very important because it's rare. Hashamayim, meaning the sky, right? Hashamayim. How do we think we would divide this up? Some of this is very clear. Well, that's the word Hashamayim. That's dagesh chazak right there. Dagesh chazak in this letter is represented with 2 shins in transcription. Dagesh chazak is a doubled letter. Okay, even though some people disagree. So obviously we will break this here because that's after a vowel before a consonant and there's another vowel on it. That's obviously a break. There's obviously a break here. Okay. The question is, what do we do to break up that double sheen? So we've got hash, sha, ma, yim. So the first syllable would be closed, unaccented. The second is open, unaccented. The third is open, accented. And the fourth is closed, unaccented. Okay, so the way that we mark it on the Hebrew word itself, if we want to put lines to show where it is, we just draw a half line through the letter. That represents that half of the letter, or the first thing, is closing this syllable, and the second half is opening the next. That's a transcription, a method for marking it, if you're like drawing the lines on where to break the word. Okay, so the first we said is closed and unaccented. That means it is short. Patach, short. The second one is open, unaccented, long.
Long.
The third is
Open, accented.
open, accented, and in this case,
We don't know,
Short.
but it is short.
it's short because patach is short, but there is no rule. There's nothing to demand it to be one way or the other. Okay, and then the last one is
Closed short.
closed and short because it's unaccented. Great. Okay.
Question.
Hashamayim.
This may sound like a first year kind of question, but is patak ever long?
No.
Never. Long.
Where there are two distinct marks, kamat is long, patak is short. Sere is long, segol is short. Like these are the marks for long and short. Also cholam and kamat katan. Okay. Next word. Vetera'e. Vetera'e. Okay, this one I put it in the middle of the screen so you can talk me through it. Who wants to talk through it? You can also use your mouse if you go to the controls and hit annotate, and you can use your mouse to draw and to make lines on the screen.
Ooh, fun.
Oh, that didn't erase, did it? Sorry. How weird, I tell it clear all. It doesn't. Let's try to go back and come. Okay. Who wants to draw on it?
Oh, it's back.
Oh. Okay. Well, obviously these go together, right? This one is a break. This one is a break, and that one is a break. According to traditional rules, there we go. Traditional syllabification rules, shva does not count as its own syllable. So this is technically, according to traditional rules, one syllable. Okay, and the vete, the ve goes with te. It's one syllable. So this is 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, so 1. Is 1 open or closed?
Open.
Open. Okay. If we break it here, we could still say that it's open, but in this case, the vowel has been reduced.
Yeah.
Okay. So vetera'e, syllable 1 is open, and is the vowel, is it accented or unaccented?
Unaccented.
Unaccented, and the vowel is obviously
Long.
long. Syllable 2, accented or unaccented?
Unaccented.
Unaccented.
Unaccented. Open or closed?
Open.
Open.
The vowel is
Long.
long. And the third syllable,
Accented.
accented. Is it
Closed.
open or closed? This is
Ah.
this is one for argumentation. My personal opinion is that anytime that hey goes with any vowel other than kamatz, it is a consonant. And only if it's with if there's kamatz hey. This is why we mark kamatz hey with mapik if it is a consonant. In no other case do you need to mark mapik, because in all of the cases it's already assumed to be a consonant. There are some who argue otherwise, that there are words like ko amal Adonai, thus saith the Lord, ko. They would say that the hey here is operating as a vowel letter. I have a hard time accepting that it's a vowel letter. I think it's just O and H. You know? So if I were transcribing that, I would write ko with H. But if I were writing like another word, susa, like a horse, a mare, susa, a female, I would write SUSA without writing H, because the H is a vowel, not a real letter. Doesn't matter. We'll get into that on Thursday. I'll show you
Okay,
my
I got
whole
a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question that has to do
Mhm.
with that word, but
Yep.
not with simplification?
Mhm.
You go, that's Nepal. I get it in the how it translated in English, but how in the world did you know that?
The first syllable, if you have a verb and the first syllable has a tsere, that's a pretty good indicator that that's Nepal. Because what that tsere means is that there's a noon, nir-e, and that the noon wanted to assimilate into the resh,
And
but the
couldn't.
resh doesn't take dagesh, and it kicked it out as a tsere.
So when the serif vowel is under the performative.
Mm-hmm. Right, because otherwise, if it's a letter that can absorb a dagesh,
It'll have the
then
dagesh.
it will have chirik and dagesh. But if it's a guttural or
Fantastic.
resh, it kicks it out, and that becomes tsere, and only in this case do you have tsere in the performative.
Thank
So
you.
it's a strong indicator for Nepal. Okay, and the
Shall-
next
what-
word.
Sheila,
Mhm.
would the same be said for any other guttural, like an aleph or,
Mhm.
okay.
Except
any-
if a guttural has, like we talk about virtual doubling. If it's virtual doubling, like het or sometimes hey, then it will become, it will still take chirik. Most of the time, even with hey, in the nifal, it's still going to go a. It's going to go to tsere. We have the verb nechshav. Nechshav. This is with chet, and chet loves to do virtual doubling. But whenever we do the future, or we can do the infinitive even, lehin chashev. Okay, lehin chashev. The noon disappears because it wants to assimilate. Oh, go away. It won't go away. It's not erasing. Can I write? No. My computer's acting mad at me. Okay, there it goes. Lehei chashev. That's that means to be thought, to be considered. Lehei chashev. The future tense would be ye chashev. So even though there's het, and the het loves to do virtual doubling, still with the nifal it goes to ye most of the time. So that is a good indicator. The a vowel right there is a good indicator. It's either a in the future or it's e with dagesh. It's one of those two, and that's a strong indicator of the nifal. Okay, the word yabasha, ha yabasha. Okay, that is the dry ground. Who wants to? Can somebody try to annotate? You just go
Okay.
to the controls.
Oh,
Where
there
it's-
goes.
There's an annotate.
Go for it,
button.
Leanne.
But can you talk us through it while you do it?
You are muted.
Okay, let's try this. All right, so ha is going to be 1. And then yeah, it's
What do
going
you
to
do
be,
about those dagations? What do the
I've got
dagations
to
do?
come like this. So it's got to be yod, patak, one of the baits. So
Mhm.
ha, yab, and then ba. This is unpretty. Ba, sha. So this
Yeah.
is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Exactly. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's
Okay,
ugly, but yeah.
I'm going to delete the writing, and then let's look at that. So if we just, I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. We're going to draw
Yeah,
a line.
thank you.
We're going to draw a line through that one and through that one, and then this way, right? 3 lines. So this would be HAY. This is YAB. This is BA, and this is SHA. Right? Hi, Yab, Ba, Sha. Right? That's how we think of it, how we break it down. The academic transcription, Hi, Yab, Ba, Sha. Hi, Yaba, Sha. Okay? Nobody says it like that. People say Ha, Yaba, Sha. Like we don't pronounce that doubled yod. We don't really pronounce doubled consonants anymore. They used to be pronounced. So it used to be Hi, Yaba, Sha. Hi, Yaba, Sha. The B, doubled B. But we don't say that anymore. Great. What can you tell us about those syllables? If like we use your numbers, we've got 1, 2, down here we've got 3 and 4. What can you tell us about those as far as long vowels, short vowels, accent?
Yeah, it's going to be short, unaccented, long, and then 4 would be our long accented.
Yeah, this is long accent. It's historically long because it has a vowel letter. Right?
Okay.
Okay, come back here and just mention if the syllables also open or closed.
That's going to be closed,
Unaccented closed has short vowel. Great. The second one.
unaccented, closed, short vowel,
Yes. The third one.
unaccented, open, long.
And then historically long. Fantastic. Good.
And
Is this making sense?
quick question, do we call the last syllable an open syllable since the H is the
Yeah.
matrix
Yes,
lexion?
it is open. The two things that are going to be open is the final hey, unless it has mapik. Mapik
Right.
means that it's closed. And secondly, if it's aleph. Aleph at the end of a word or even at the end of a syllable disappears. And so it becomes quiescent and doesn't count for closing a syllable. Okay, all right. Echad, this is a trick one. Who wants to jump up and take that one? Echad.
Is this the virtual doubling?
Yes.
Is this, so, so it would be like this and ich ad. I don't need to do anything else, I don't think, right? Because it's just 2 syllables. Ich ad.
Two syllables. So it seems to break the rule because the first syllable looks like it's open and short, right? But the chet, even though it's not written as doubled and you will not transcribe it as doubled, still functions as if it were doubled. It's virtually doubled. You've heard of virtual doubling?
Today,
You've never heard of that?
I don't think so. If I
Oh, yeah.
have, it's been a decade.
We've heard you
and I
talk
don't
about it.
remember.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure I brought it up. Some letters do virtual doubling, het and hey especially, sometimes ein. So echad functions like that, where it looks like it's, sorry, I've got a bug, a mosquito trying to kill me. But we're still going to write it, aleph, segol, het, kamat, dalet. That's the transcription. It's not, you don't need to double the het, even though, you know, phonetically it's as if it were doubled. Okay. All right, clear. Next. So that's one issue, virtual doubling. Here's the second issue. Vayomer, vayomer. What do we got going on with that one? Janie, you want to grab this one? Oh, that's Michael writing. Oh, sorry.
Janie, go for it.
No, I mean, lo yadati.
Okay, well, let's think about the dagesh first. You see the dagesh? Is it dagesh chazak or dagesh kal? The doubling dagesh or beged kefet?
It's not a bagad kafat.
Okay, so it's the other one, the chazak, strong one, forte in Latin. So with the dagesh forte, we can automatically draw a line through it sideways, because the first yod goes to the first syllable and the second yod goes to, it keeps circling my head. It goes in front of my eye. It's the strangest thing. Sorry, this mosquito. Okay. We know that mer is obviously a closed syllable, right? So we'd break before that. Do we need another break? Vai, yo, mer. Vai, yo, mer. Does it need any more syllables?
If the yod is doubled, wouldn't it have to have another syllable?
Well, the yod is doubled, so it goes one here and one here. Vai, yo, and that's long, mer. The accent is here, vayomer. Vai, yo, mer. That's really everything. That's everything. The question is what's happening with the aleph.
indeed. Is that a vowel letter in this context, more or less?
It's not a vowel letter.
Well,
What it is that the aleph has lost its consonantal nature and it's simply disappeared.
all right,
So you don't use a glottal stop.
right.
It's funny because in Arabic you do. In Arabic, aleph that comes after, it's not, see, the seat for a vowel in Arabic is actually called hamsa. It looks like this. So you have the word, this is a good example, it's really fun. This is mem, alif, and hamsa. It goes like this. And the word is mat, mat. It has at the end of the word. Do you hear that? Mat, mat. That at the end of the word is hamsa, and it's essentially the job of aleph in Hebrew. That it opens the throat so you can make it closes at one point and opens for the next syllable. That's what aleph does. So in Hebrew, when an aleph sits after a vowel and doesn't carry its own vowel, it doesn't have any sound. It's completely silent. We like to say that aleph is a silent letter, which isn't really true, but in this case it is true. And what we call it is quiescent. Quiescent aleph is when aleph loses its consonantal structure, its nature, and it becomes silent completely. We hear this most frequently in the book, in the name of the book of Genesis, Bereshit. Okay, we've got be, re, with aleph just sitting there that has nothing on it. There's nothing on the aleph. It just sits there. Bereshit. Also in the word rosh, meaning head. Rosh, the aleph doesn't have any sound. It sounds like it's just rosh. The aleph is not, it's not there phonetically. We don't pronounce it. Okay, so that's a second weird thing. The first was virtual doubling. The second is quiescent aleph. Things you have to take into account whenever you're dividing up syllables. In this
Forgive me,
one,
but I forgot. Sorry, I forgot whether we consider the syllable to be closed or open if aleph is quiescent. Is it open?
It's open.
Okay.
It is open, which will have an effect in how you point vowel or verbs that come with aleph. Like think of bara. Okay, bara. Normally you have the vowel is with patach, kamatz patach. But with aleph, this means it's an open syllable and you don't have a short vowel like that hanging out on the end of a word. So it's a long syllable. Bara. Bara. It also happens like I created. Bara. Barati. There is no dagesh in the taf. No dagesh because aleph is ignored and the sound before it is a vowel. So beged kefet with a vowel before it doesn't have dagesh. Right? Yeah. So many things start to like come together.
Before we move on from this page, quick.
Mhm.
This is I'm trying to assimilate all this information and think a little beyond it.
Mhm.
So imagine we
Good.
had a pointed manuscript here, and we saw the word vayomet with the segol here. We would have to know that it's a closed syllable, right? So imagine the resh,
Yeah, if
something came
if
and
the
ate the
resh were
page.
missing, and you saw that there was some kind of accent on this syllable,
Yeah.
and you saw the segol there, you know that there's a letter missing. It
So
has
there's
to
a
be
letter.
closed.
It has to be a consonantal sound
Yeah.
to close
Mhm.
it. But if it
Exactly.
were,
It can't be aleph because aleph could
Yeah.
not have a segol there because aleph doesn't count.
okay.
Because it would be an open syllable in that case.
And this could not be a tsere between the mem and the resh,
No.
because that's
Because
the
it's
law.
unaccented.
Doesn't make
It's,
sense.
yeah, exactly. You can't.
Wow. I can't believe I've come this far and not understood these rules. This is crazy. This is great.
Traditionally, when you study first year Hebrew, you learn these rules. That's the first thing you do is learn these rules, and then you learn the language after that. But you can see that doing it in that order strangles people. I don't know how people succeeded. I succeeded with it, but I don't know how people did it because it's contrary to all language acquisition theory. But it's a good idea a year and a half after you've studied Hebrew to come back and look at it and say, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's not a good idea to start with it. Okay, so we looked at like the word yabasha and we put lines through the dageshes, but now we have a different kind of dagesh, right? How do we read this word?
Midbar.
Midbar. So do we break this as two syllables? B. No.
No, that's dagesh lene.
Dagesh lene. That means that we have a broken syllable with silent shava. This is not a vowel. It's a non-vowel. And then after it, the beged kefet letters will be hard. Okay, so this is two syllables. Midbar. The first syllable is closed, unaccented, short vowel. The second syllable in this case is accented, which means no rule, but it is closed with a long vowel. Midbar. Okay, this is the third odd thing about syllables, that is beged kefet don't represent doubled consonants. Okay, if they are in this, but this is beged kefet that does represent doubled consonant. Why? Because it follows after a vowel.
Open. Well, it's not open, but
Okay. So what we have here, this also has an oddity about it. That is, normally the Vav consecutive has dagesh in the first letter. And if it has shva here, like happens in the PL all the time, then it loses dagesh. This is just called in Gesenius, it's called loss of dagesh forte. If you want to look in the
Sheila,
index of Gesenius.
I looked that up today, and I couldn't find it. I looked in chapter, they had like 12, 13, 14
In
Gesenius,
in
and I couldn't-
Gesenius,
Yeah,
let me
is it in the,
grab it. Let me grab it real quick, and I'll get with you. Hold on. Hi.
sorry to slow everybody down,
All good. This is the Skinnem
Right.
Levy.
learning
Rule.
how to use it.
Is this the edition that you have of Gesenius?
Yep. Same
Okay.
one.
Looks like you
Yeah.
have a nice hardback copy. I got the cheap paperback.
Mine's used, so.
But it looks beautiful. So let's go back to the index and just look for dagesh.
Yeah, that's all right. So, and they were in. The glasses.
We're going to look under dagesh forte. Omitted sometimes in second article of ein verbs. Omission. Omission of is 20L. I thought he called it loss of.
Omitted sometimes the second radical.
20L. Oh, on B Hebrew, those two guys I told you about, they really hate Gesenius. Oh, that's 22. I'm like, that doesn't say anything like what the index just said. Omission of the strengthening, or at least a loss of dagesh forte. This is in mine it's page 73. It's section 20.3. Says almost always at the end of a word, since here a strengthened consonant cannot easily be sounded. Of course, there's only one exception that we know of, and that's the word at, that has aleph taf with dagesh. And sometimes you have a kaf at the end of the word that has dagesh forte, but it also has a vowel with it most of the time. But we have vayevk. Vayevk has dagesh forte in kaf with no vowel. That's fun. The natat you gave. Very frequently in certain consonants with shva mobile. Okay, shva mobile. Vocal shva. Since the absence of a strong vowel causes the strengthening to be less noticeable. And that's really what we're talking about. Is that specific, it's letter M, 20M. If you want to look at that later.
Yeah, thank you for showing me that.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
So that's what we have going on here. That normally we would expect the dagesh right there in that yod. I'm going to use a pen because it makes a little darker mark. Dagesh in that yod. That's a big dark mark. Vayidaber. But when there's a vocal shva underneath it, these letters, the Skinnem Levy letters, tend to lose the dagesh. And that's what I wrote here, Skinnem Levy. Okay, so we've got the virtual doubling that causes weird things with syllable division. The quiescent aleph plays games with syllable division, and the loss of dagesh forte. These are important aspects when you're thinking about breaking up syllables. And this does cause a lot of a headache in this case. Vayidaber, vai. What's written here is a closed syllable, vai. Vai da ber. That's what's written. Vai dab ber. Vai dab ber. That's what's written. But we still pronounce it as if that dagesh were there. Vayidaber. Vayidaber. Most people will pronounce it that way. but it's technically written as a closed syllable. Okay, moving on. We have a lot of stuff to get to. We're on slide 20 out of 35. From Coutts and Jossberger's Learning Biblical Hebrew. Okay, this book, I cannot praise it enough. You have this book, Learning Biblical Hebrew from Coutts and Jossberger. Great.
I
This
just
is
got
the book. This is the book that I taught through last year, and all of the videos are on YouTube. You can use them at your leisure if you like. I've got the workbook too down here, but I'm using it to prop up my computer. I have a lot of books. I've got Basics of Biblical Hebrew workbook and grammar book, Greek and intensive course, Gottwald's The Hebrew Bible, a Socio-Literary Introduction. These are creating a stand to elevate my computer. So anyway, Coutts and Jossberger, I think that they put together the most fantastic introductory grammar. And everything that I believe now about syllabification and the vowel lengths and everything, I take from them. To me, they are very well informed, and they put together a fantastic grammar that I do recommend to everybody. So in chapter 5 is where they deal with the rules for vowel changes in nouns, and that's basically all we're going to look at. Number 1. I really wish I could kill this mosquito. Closed unaccented syllables require short vowels. The corollary would be open unaccented syllables require long vowels, right? But we don't have a rule for accented syllables, only for unaccented. Okay, that is our rule. Open, long, closed, short. Okay, that's how many times have we said that? That's a lot.
You were saying nouns. Is it? Did you mean words in general?
Nouns.
Only nouns.
Verbs,
These rules apply to nouns only?
Verbs do have a set of rules, but they go through what is called secondary modification. That is, they follow the rules, but there are shifts. And you have to understand the shift in order to see how the rule still applies. Yeah. And so we'll put it in gray because that's what they did in their book. We're going to do that. And then, so near open syllables. Okay. Remember, we have open syllables. Near open syllables. Okay. In nouns, they lengthen. In nouns, the near open syllable lengthens, becomes long. We said that open, long, closed, short. Technically not completely true because open could also be reduced. If it's a distant open syllable reduces. And reduces by reducent, see distant open syllable reduce. What we mean by distant is that if this is the tone syllable, it has the accent, the syllable in front of it is near, any syllable before that is distant. Distant. There can be a syllable after the tone as well, because this is mil el. But this is near, distant, distant, distant. I mark them distant 1, 2, 3, and so on. We don't have words that long in Hebrew, but theoretically. Okay. All right. These rules apply to the historical form of a word, not to the real form. For example, we need to think of davar. You see davar right there? Davar, you see patach, patach. There is no word in the Hebrew language that's going to have patach, patach like this. Okay. Why do we do this? Because historically we had 3 vowels, a, I, u. So to get the historical form, we take the regular kamatz or patach and we make it patach. We take any I quality vowel, I or E, and we make it I, chirik, and it's short. Historic vowels are short, except in the case of matres lecciones, which are historically long, and sometimes kamatz that we're not going to go into. So davar is the real word with 2 kamatzes, but the historical form is with patach. We drop them down to patach. Drop tsere down to chirik. drop cholam down to kubutz. It's the short version of the vowel. Okay, the historic form is the short version of the vowel. And from that short form, we're able to extrapolate what we see in the real language. Okay, so that's part of the stuff that, you know, the people I was talking about before really hate. They hate the historical approach to the language, but it makes things clearer. And it's all taught very clearly in this book, chapter 5 for nouns. Okay, so in Segolets, we look at bigd from the idea of bigdo, his garment, bigdo. Segolet nouns will be bigdo, malko, his king, kalbo, his dog. Put the his suffix on there, and then you have the historical form. Kalbo, kalb. Malko, malk. Yaldo, yald. These are the Segolet nouns. And the historical form is not beged or sefel or yeled. That's the extrapolated form that we received, but it's not the historical form. Okay. Identifying the historical length of vowels. This is taken directly from Jasperger, page 70. I have the logos version, and I just copy pasted and stylized. So in this case, somebody can read, if you would.
I'm glad to.
Sure.
If a word has vowels with vowel markers, these are historic long vowels.
What's a vowel marker? Matres lectionis. The vowel letters. Okay, so if a word has vowels with vowel letters, they are historic long. Okay.
Okay. So if a word has vowels with vowel markers / matres lectiones, these are historic long vowels that will remain unchanged. In general, all other vowels go back to historic short vowels and should be visualized as such. It would be easiest if you consistently visualize short a as patach, short e as hirek. Am I reading this right?
That's how they write it, yeah. We say chirik, but they say chirek.
Chirik, and short ou as kibbutz.
We say kubutz. And for whatever reason, in Israel, we use the same vowel. So if it's u, we say kubutz. If it's e, we say chirik. If it's a, we say kamat.
Oh.
For whatever reason, that's how it works out with us.
Kubutz. Although certain vowel classes are represented by more than one vowel. For example, short I class is represented by short e and short e. We are only trying to approximate the historic forms of the vowel classes, what really matters.
Okay, so don't be sticklers and pedantic. We're trying to theorize, and so don't be too hard on yourself. So biblical Hebrew, we have the word shalom. Shalom, the first syllable is open, unaccented, long, sha. To get the historical form, we take that to short, sha. So the historic form, you notice on the right, has patach. Zaken. Zaken has two long vowels. It's an A class vowel and an E class vowel. So we're going to drop them to patach and to chirik. Zakin. This is just theory. Okay, so kol is a U quality vowel, U class vowel. We're going to drop it to kubutz, kul. Which is real, by the way. How do you say all of me? Like if you're singing John Legend's beautiful song, all of me loves all of you.
Kuli, perhaps?
Kuli, ohev et kulech. All of me loves all of you. Yeah. So this is not just theoretical, it is also applicable to the real. All right.
It's like kulam.
Kulam, it means all of them.
Yeah.
In open syllables, the syllable before the tone, that is the near syllable, will lengthen. Any syllable before that, that is distant syllables, of course, will reduce to shva. whether simple or composite. Why would we have composite shva instead of simple shva?
Guttural.
Because you have a guttural. Yes. Mhm. In fact, the vowel patterns, let's say lashevet, yashav, yashav. If I can build a vowel pattern off of this root and say yeshiva means sitting, yeshiva, sitting. With the same vowel pattern, that is, the vowel pattern is a long E, a long ah on the end, and a reduced first syllable. The same vowel pattern, if I put that on the word achal, which means eat, okay, the same vowel pattern. What is that vowel pattern? It's a reduced first syllable, shva, the middle E, and the latter ah. I can put the same vowel pattern, E, ah. That first syllable, instead of being shva, is going to be ah, but this is the same vowel pattern. If it's vocal shva or it's composite shva, it's the same. Shva is shva. That's a principle in Hebrew syllables. Shva is shva. It doesn't matter if it's composite or if it's simple. It's composite because it's vocal on a guttural. Okay, so if we have the word davar and we want to go to the historical form, davar, we reduce these to patach. Okay, they're patach. And then once we have this historical form, we can add the endings that we know. Im is for the plural, right? Im. Okay. Then we have the tone, that is the accented syllable, tone, the near syllable, and the distant syllable. This is D1, first distant syllable, right? Tone, near, distant, correct? Okay, so according to the rules, the near syllable lengthens to kamatz. It lengthens to the same vowel quality. So patach goes to kamatz. And the first syllable, because it's distant, reduces to shva. So this is why we have davar becoming devarim, according to this set of rules, the set of rules. Brilliant, huh? I didn't know that until last year whenever I was teaching through this book. Because before that, I just had it memorized as a pattern. I didn't know that there were rules to these things. So we're going to go over a lot of examples and see what we can do. This is straight out of Kutz and Jasperger, page 68, kind of summarizes it with historic vowels, okay? If the stress is over here, this is near and it's closed, unaccented, so it has to be short. And this is distant one, it reduces. But if the stress is here, okay, like in, this is a construct. This is construct and this is absolute. If the accent is here, then the near syllable is long. And in this case, in the case of nouns, the accent, the tone syllable will also be long generally. Most of the time, not always. Okay, that is not important. None of this is important to memorize. We're going to get into a lot of examples.
Could you just go back? Because I feel like the world is opening up and there's so many things that are clicking and starting to make more sense. What you just at first, what you were starting to say was for the right as to the left and the reduced short, you started putting an accent after that. So and yours then you then said that's construct. So let me just make sure I understand that. So when it's in a construct chain, the first word is as if it doesn't have its own accent, and the accent is on the next word.
Yeah, that's the whole concept of makaf. That the word after it is the one that has they're considered as a one-word combination, like flower pot. Like it's just one word that's thrown together. Even if the makaf isn't there and you just have another word that it's like glued onto, it's still considered one unit.
But that makes so much more sense why construct chains work the way they do while the vowels shift, because it's really,
Absolutely.
it's the unaccented. You're accenting, you're focusing on the second part, the absolute, not the, wow, thanks.
For sure, for sure. So these are various forms that you could have from the word chacham, which is the word wise, right? A wise person, a sage. So chacham is the absolute form. That is the stress is here, and the near syllable is long, and in this case, it also lengthens the last syllable. Okay, that's just a pattern. Davar, they will have two long kamats. Okay, in the construct, you're going to have this accent shifted. And so this is near, closed, which means it's short. And then D1 is reduced. It's not shva because it's guttural. Guttural takes the composite shva. Okay. In this case, this is the plural. The ending is A. Okay, so this is the accent. The near syllable is historic long. It cannot be reduced. Historic long because it has matelecciones. Okay, then we have D1 and D2, which both try to become shva. So let's look at what happens. This is fun. Cha, cham, may, whatever. You got may, this is near. You got cha, cham. Both of these try to reduce to shva because distant syllables reduce. Okay, so this is not patach, that is not patach. But you cannot have two shvas together, right? Two vocal shvas cannot stand together. So the first one goes through resolution. It resolves. Okay, it goes through resolution. Most of the time it will become chirik, but with many verbs instead of chirik, and especially with chet, it becomes a. Chachme. Chachme haaretz, the wise men of the land. Chachme haaretz. That's what's happening with the vocalic structure. I don't know if it strikes you how important this is, but this is something that I didn't learn until last year, and it explains why the vowels sit the way they do. I simply memorized Chachme haaretz and Chachamim, and like I memorized the forms. I didn't know that there were rules, and it's really it's eye-opening.
I'm just saying, I'm beginning to think somebody put me like at shortstop and gave me a glove, and I was like in my diapers, and I had no idea what was going on. That's the way I feel. Like, whoa, there's a whole logic behind all this.
Yes, there is, really. And it was such a pleasure for me last year to read this book and learn it and teach it at the same time. I was so grateful for this book. I don't know. So again, here we've got the tone, near and distant. Near lengthens, distant reduces. Okay. All right, we have a lot of examples. So figure out the historic forms, the historical vowels, historic vowels. Eved. Remember with Segolet, we're going to pull out of our brains the his form. So how do you say his slave?
Avdo.
Avdo. The historical form is
Avd.
avd. Avd. The fun thing about segolets, there's always fun things about segolets, is that they are the only form that has two roots. They have two stems, if you will. One is for the singular, and the second is for the plural. For the plural, they're going to look like davar. They look the same. Avad. For the plural, they're going to a. For the singular, they're going to look like they do with the possessive suffix. Avdo. Avdo. Just take off the possessive suffix, and you get avd. That's the root. And then for the plural, avad. So this is important because, well, otherwise you don't know where the words come from. Avdi. Avdi is my servant. But how do you say servants? You've got avad. You've got avad with im. Im is the plural, okay? The near syllable lengthens. The distant syllable reduces.
Reduces to
Right.
Avadim. Avadim. Okay, if we have his servants, okay, his servants. Okay, suddenly instead of im, we have av. The near syllable lengthens, this distant reduces, avadav. This is what we have going on in all of these cases. Look at this one. Avadim, but I want to say hem, theirs, their servants. Now I've got the tone way over here. This is why we say that these are heavy endings. Heavy endings, because they pull the accent to the end of the word. That's why we say they're heavy. So this we have near, and this one we said was ava, right? We have distant one, distant two. Both distant syllables want to reduce to shva.
They can't.
Both distant syllables want to. This one will say, okay, let's do something else, and it will resolve as patach. So how do you say their servants? You say avdehem. That's the vocalic structure of their servants, and that's how you get to it. Right? So that's why you have avadai, my servants, but avdehem with a closed syllable. It's because both of these are distant now, but when it was avadai, this was near and this was distant. It has to do with how close they are to the tone.
Do any of these sorts of words end up with an O sound on the distant two?
They can, yes. It would be segulate nouns that have a U quality vowel in segulate, like kodesh and chodesh. So chodesh means month, right? A new moon. Okay, so this is really interesting. If you want to say 2 months, okay, you've got the ayim. For whatever reason, with the dual ending, it likes to close the syllable before it. Chodshayim. Chodshayim. If you want to say, if you say my new moons, your God, and you're saying my new moons, okay, you're going to have, in this case, you're going to have the O vowel here as a primitive vowel. A primitive vowel. So you're going to say this is near, it's long, and this is distant, it reduces. Chodashai. Chodashai. The reduction goes to O. So there are situations, but we're not going to look at them. We're going to stay with the simple ones generally. Yeled. Yeled is, his child is Yaldo. So that's the root. The historical root is Yald. And that we see exactly in Yalda, where we just add the feminine ending. Historical, when we mark the feminine ending, we're going to mark it with patach, because all the vowels are going to go to patach. Okay? And what we have is that this in the absolute form becomes this in the construct form. Historically, it was taf. Taf was the ending. Taf was the ending for the feminine. And what happened was that it just stopped losing its it lost its pronunciation and became ah. At just became ah. So historically it was tough, but it became hey. Okay, simla. This is another rule. If you have a closed syllable and you can see in the other forms that you never open it, that closed syllable is frozen. It cannot be opened.
What?
Like
that.
yalda, that's not going to open. It's not going to be anything else. Simla is not going to be open. But this is also, simla is like yalda. It's a segulate feminine. It's a segulate feminine, which means that the plural has the root samal. So samalot becomes near, long, distant, reduced. Smalot. Smalot is how you say dresses. Simla is a dress, and smalot is dresses. I never knew why that was smalot. I only knew you said smalot. I didn't know the rule. This is the rule. That segolets have a secondary stem whenever they're in the plural. Brilliant. Adama. Adama. How do we get to the historic form of Adama? If it's in construct, the word is admat. Admat. Do we know if it's adama historically, or if it's adma or admat historically? How can we know? Like his land is admato. Admato. Look what's happening when we do this. Admato. Let's assume the toe ending is historical long. It's the his. Okay. If we assume adama, adamato, historical, the near syllable becomes long. The two other syllables reduce. This one wants to resolve, and it resolves naturally to a. Admato. Isn't that exactly the form?
Okay.
That is exactly the form. The historical form is a. Adama.
I was only hesitating because you said that the historically it has a T on the end.
And which comes out whenever you add the suffixes or construct. Cool. Kelev.
Kalv.
Kalb. Kalbo. All of them are going to be hard in that in their ending in the historic form. Kalb. The same with melech, which will be malk. Malk. The root of kalba is the same. Kalb. Sefer. How do you say his book or his scroll?
Sifro.
Sifro. Sifro. So historically, SIFR. 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 Because it would be Sifra and Sifru and Sifri with the case endings.
So this is a
Delek.
minor question. May I,
Mhm.
while we're on this point, because
Yep.
I feel like this could maybe reveal something that I'm not getting. I've
Mhm.
never understood if Sifid is a segolet, why is it not spelled with two segols? Why is it?
Generally, you notice that segolets can be spelled with a cholam. They can be spelled with chirik or with a tzere in the first syllable, or they can be spelled with segol. I think those are the only options. And why that is because historically this is U quality, this is E quality, and this is I.
Okay.
Or no, this is most often A, but sometimes I. Like beged, bigdo, beged is a segol. But often the reason is that the ones that come from an original I will normally go to tzere. So sidro, his order, sidro is seder.
Yeah. Also with a tzere. Okay.
That's normally the case. It's not always, but it's normally the case.
So it has to do with its historic vowels, not so much the syllabification or the consonants around it. It's the historic affecting it. Okay, that's helpful.
And sometimes it's not the case. Like the word cheder. Cheder. Yeah, it has tzere in the first syllable, but it's chad. Chadro. Like sometimes it's not the case, but that's a general rule of thumb to go by.
Okay.
Eretz, you would say artso, so arts. Arts. All right. Davar, we get the historical form. Da, var, right? Break it into its syllables. Da, var. We add the ending. Im. Davarim. We have the tone near and distant one. Okay, the near lengthens, distant one reduces, and we get our form devarim.
That's beautiful. Yep.
I know. This just puts so many things into perspective. Mishpat has a closed syllable. It has that closed syllable right there. It doesn't break. Mishpat, so the kamat historically is a patach sound. It's short. Mishpat. At the ending, tim, mishpatim, tone near, distant. Distant that's closed doesn't reduce. It can't change. It's stuck. Mishpatim, that's our word. Okay, melech has two roots. It has two stems because it's segulit. Singular is malk, plural is malach. Okay, so if we take the plural stem, malach, and we add im, malachim becomes tone near, distant one, near lengthens, distant reduces. We've got melachim, mlachim. Okay, same thing. If we now do construct where the tone has moved to the next word, that changes things. The tone is there. The near syllable is historically long. Okay, historic long. That makes this distant one and that distant two. They try to reduce as two shvaz, but they come together as mal, malche. Normally, whatever the vowel is in the singular stem will appear here. Malche. Malche haaretz, kings of the earth. But you say melachim, melachim, malche haaretz. I think this is the most brilliant information ever presented. I am so happy that I read that book. Beged is bigd and bagad. Bagad is plural and bigd is singular, right? Because segulets have two stems. Bagadim, tone near distant, begadim, begadim. Okay, if we do the construct bagade that joins to the next word, they both try to reduce those distant syllables and it becomes bigde, bigde yam. Again, the vowel that's here tends to come out here. Bigde yam. Okay. Yalda, it's feminine, but it's still a segulit built off of yeled. Okay, yeled. So the root is yald, yalda, yalad in the plural. So the plural would be yaladot, yaladot. Construct joined to the next word. We have two distant syllables that try to reduce. Yeldot of something, yaldot, because of resolution of those two shvas. I know it's repetitive, but that's what you get. So compare the two forms. We're almost finished, actually. We're making good progress. Yeladot, notice the structure. Tone, near, distant. Yeladot, this is the absolute form. But here we have tone, near, distant one, distant two, and we have yaldot, yeladot, yaldot. You see what's going on? All right, so this is a rundown of all the forms of chacham. Okay, we've got masculine singular, masculine plural, feminine singular, feminine plural. First, we're going to look at the absolute form, chacham. Both of them go to kamat, chacham. That's the real form that you find in the Bible. This is the historical form. Or historical. I don't know the difference, historic and historical. Chachamim. Okay, you've got the root that has the two patach. You add the ending. You've got tone, near, distant. Chachamim. Chachama, this is for a woman. Okay, chachama, tone, near, distant. Chachama. Chachamot, tone, near, distant. Chachamot. That's straightforward and beautiful. Yeah. Construct. Chacham, it's the wise person of something. Okay, the near is this one, the distant reduces, so you get chataf patach in the beginning. Clear? Okay, chachame with the tone, near, distant, distant. There's resolution, becomes chachme. Chachme haaretz, the wise men of the land. Chachamat, same thing as before, chachmat. The wise woman of something. chachamot, same thing, chachmot. Now you have an explanation for why all those vowels sit in different patterns. Something you probably never thought of before. I know that I certainly didn't. This is the takeaway. In unaccented syllables, open syllables take long vowels unless they're in the distant syllables, and then they reduce, right? And closed syllables take short vowels. Open long, closed short. Said it 100 times, and that's really important. And the second thing, in open syllables, this is for the rules for nouns, and the verbs are built on this with little differences, but it's enough to know this. Near syllables, that's a syllable near the tone, lengthens, and distant reduces. This is the takeaway. Okay, and with that, I think that we've covered the rules and syllabification. I think we've covered enough that hopefully you will come away from this with your life changed forever and ever and ever. And with that, I say toda rabba lachem. Toda rabba. Any questions or anything that you'd like to go over before we call it quits? It's been about an hour and a half, which is our standard time, I think. I'm a little hoarse because I talked a lot.
Are these on your lectures from this book on Hebrew Cafe?
Yeah.
On the YouTube channel? Okay.
They're not really lectures, they're lessons like what we've done, like with students who had never had Hebrew before, and it was their first time, and we did 2 courses. We did 101 and 102 that completed this book and the workbook.
Great.
And it's all in a playlist and public.
Thank you.
They wanted from the beginning, I asked them, do you mind if we record everything and put it on YouTube? And they said, sure. And so we put all of it up there. And I'm putting this lesson up. So thank you guys for being willing to participate. And I hope that it was new information that will help you to look at things a bit differently.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've forgotten, after I did my first year of Hebrew, like went 30 years or something. And then I started just reading aloud and noticing the patterns of things. And so inductively, I was noticing these things, but I didn't have a kind of a theoretical explanation for it. So having both the inductive kind of feel for it, what it ought to sound like, and also having the theory, especially I'm going to go back and take notes on this. And that'll be a great step forward for me. Thanks so much. Brilliant.
You're welcome. And if you can get your hands on this book and study through it, it's really, really a treasure. Treasure.
And if we want to, apart from that book, because I know there's a lot in that book, is there a specific resource related to this that you would recommend? Like if we want more examples or exercises or something.
When I first taught through this, I feel like those introductory lessons, like chapter 5 lesson where I was going over this with the students back then,
Yeah.
I feel like I included everything in it. Like I felt that it was a good coverage that had a lot of exercises and examples.
Great. I'll look at it.
So it's definitely something. When Michelle mentioned on NLM that she was looking for something that explained syllables and all of that, I was like, look at my videos, and she's like, I've been watching, and they've got the information. So I said, okay. But yeah. So any issues or questions? We're really to the point of wrapping up now. We have one more symposium, one more reading, and then the wrap up. It's been kind of a long trip, and you guys have put up
a lot of value, a whole lot of value. Wow. Yeah. I mean, my question looking forward is, are there going to be any? Maybe if you're willing, you may be just thinking, man, I'm going to relax for a while and not even think about trying to.
I have been thinking about relaxing because this is 2 o'clock in the morning until 3:30, 4 o'clock. So I have been thinking about relaxing.
However, if you, what was I going to say? I would be interested in some other further steps, or hearing about any ideas you have for further steps for folks who are at our stage of learning. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I've said before that I'm really interested in doing something with the discourse analysis book. Intermediate stages where it's kind of hard to know where to go. because there aren't a lot of options for intermediate. There are options for advanced. And I think that discourse analysis is probably on the advanced spectrum, but it's something I think we could work into. You don't have to know it perfectly just to get the concepts. So maybe we could go in that direction. Discourse analysis for me is also something that's really new.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you so much, Jason. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Uh,
Shalom.
Right.
Thank you as always.
We'll see you in a couple of days. Bye, guys.